Okay, so I went ahead and finished off the drawing, and I'll just go and undo everything so I can go through it step by step. But I placed a bolt in and created a slotted hole and tried to work through some of the details about how to do that efficiently while drafting. Although I find working in the Revit modeler a little difficult for the drafting part. So let's go ahead and undo this all the way back to the beginning of where we left off with the last clip. And we'll make some slots. So we'll go to the floor plan or elevation or, excuse me, plan level. And we want to put some slots in here. So we're going to do that by editing this extrusion like we did for the holes in the previous. So I'm going to go ahead and make a slot. And we'll make it 2 inches, let's say by a 1/2 inch. I'll zoom in here, and it's a slot. We want those kind of rounded ends on it. So I'm going to go ahead and create an arc. And we can go ahead and actually mirror that arc over, finding our center point. And I'm going to just move this over so we could use this for a reference point. I'm going to just move this to the center of the, and it's parametrically linked. So I'll just say unjoin the elements. I'm going to undo that a minute and just get rid of this line. And so we'll grab this slot. And the idea here is to try and get this located in some useful manner. So I'll just move this to the center of that. It obviously kicks up and screams because of the overlapping lines. And we'll just pull this in a reasonable distance. Let's pull it in 1 inch. And then we'll just copy this and pull that up 2 inches. So now we have our 2 slotted, and I'll complete that out. And we'll look at that in a 3D view so we can see our slots. And now we just want to make really a visualization of the bolts. We don't actually want to go through and detail the bolts at this point. We don't really have any idea of those connections, but obviously putting the bolt heads on here will be really descriptive in our views of this. So let's go ahead and make a bolt. We'll go back to a floor plan reference level, and it's a bolt with a washer under it. So the first thing we're going to do is create an extrusion. And like I said, we're not going to be overly detailed because like a washer would have a hole through it. We don't really need that. You actually can't visualize it. So let's make I'm going to make a 1/2 inch diameter washer. We'll complete that out, and that's extruded out. Go to the front elevation, and I'll zoom in here a little bit so we can sit it up on top of the plate. I haven't moved it into location yet, and I'm not going to concern myself with the reference lines and how deep this element is. I just want it to be obviously thinner than the 1/4 inch. It's a washer, and we'll go back to the plan level of the reference, and now we need a bolt for that. So we'll use another extrusion. That'll be a hex. We don't get a good indication of the center, and that's a little frustrating, but I do get it over here, so I can go ahead and drag out a bolt. And let's see what we want to make that. Let's make that bolt 3/8, the head of it. And now our challenge is to get that located over the center. So we're just going to actually, well, I don't have to move it now. I could actually move it out at the other level. So I'll go ahead and complete that, and then I'll move it over. And the 1/2 inch brings us to the center of that. Now let's go ahead and look at that from the front elevation again. That's that hex we just extruded. And now what we want to do is let's go ahead and group these. And then move them onto our slotted area. See what kind of indicators we get here for I don't know if we'll get a center. It looks like it wants to snap to the center, so that's a nice thing. So we'll do that, and then we'll just duplicate this off, snap it to the 2-inch mark, and check our work here in a 3D view. That's looking pretty good. And then the next thing is we need to add the bolts up in the top and the bottom. So we'll go ahead and go to a side elevation. We'll grab one of these and copy it off. Take the constraint off so we can move it. And we're going to go ahead and rotate it. We'll rotate it 90 degrees so it can touch that flange. And move it over. And now we have to worry about aligning it. So we'll go to the front elevation. And we'll see what we can get as far as an indicator for alignment. Like once again, we don't get that front view, so we can, but we do get a point that we can touch over there, and then we can move it over. And that would be a 1/4 inch to the center, and then we'll just make a copy. We've made those 2-inch holes apart. So now let's go ahead and grab these two. And copy these down. And that's touching right up at the top. It happens to be, so I could just use that. That'll come down. I think that, whoops. Let's try that again. Grab these two. And grab a point. And I think this is exactly 9 inches down to the bottom. And there we are aligned. And we'll take a look at that in the 3D view. And I didn't make a copy, I just moved it. So sorry, I have to do that again. Okay, so I'll end this clip here. We've got our 3D clip, and our next step will be to apply this to our curtain wall module, and we'll do that in the next step. So we have a little delineation of where you can pick up in this instructional series to do that placement.